I am Abby Domingos, and today on Heart to Heart with Abagaba, I'm honored to be joined by Sue Atkins, an internationally recognized author, broadcaster, and parenting expert who helps families confidently navigate the digital jungle. Sue empowers families to guide their children through screen time, social media, AI, and online safety, not through fear, but through connection, communication, and balance. Her work, including her powerful program, Navigating the Digital Jungle, offers real world tools to help families create healthier digital habits and stronger bonds offline. Hi, I'm Abby Dominguez. This is Heart to Heart with Abagaba podcast, and I'm so glad you're here. I spent over a decade as a nanny and teacher, learning from children and families around the world. Now I bring those lessons to you, heart to heart conversations with people from all walks of life, sharing stories of love, laughter, and resilience that remind us of the power of connection and community. Subscribe today and join our village of heart to heart listeners. Sue, thank you so very much for being here today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Looking forward to chatting to you.
Oh, I look forward as well. Your work has been such a guiding light for parents learning to navigate screens, social media, and now AI, all while staying connected to their children. I'd love to start with the big picture. What do you see as the biggest challenges parents face today around screens, social media, and digital life? And how can they begin to tackle them with confidence?
Yeah, I think the key word that you mentioned there is confidence. I do think that smartphones, giving the children smartphones too early, trying to delay that and delay them getting onto social media, because once you've gone on there, it's very hard to get them sort of off it
It
because
is.
it's so addictive, with the algorithms and the social media posts that draw people in and they end up scrolling and scrolling. And of
Mhm.
course, they get a bit addicted to what I call, and then they suffer from the dopamine crash because when they come off, they kind of feel all irritable and cross. So it's a very big global problem. I was talking in Gibraltar last week at some schools for the Mental Health Schools Festival over there in Gibraltar around navigating the digital jungle. And what that proves to me, it's a global concern. Wherever you live in the world, parents are really struggling to put boundaries around it. We've put boundaries around junk food and eating sugar and,
Mhm.
going to bed on time. But we are struggling at times to put some sort of boundaries around the amount of screen time that kids use. And the other thing that's worth pointing out, I think, not all screen time is equal because you could be doing something very creative with it. And I am pro tech, but I am protect the children because they
Mhm.
do see some terrible things by accident a lot of the time. So,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a big problem wherever you live in the world.
that's such a grounded way to look at it. I love how you bring calm to what can feel like chaos. Let's talk about those let's talk about those practical moments at home when parents are actually trying to set boundaries or
Yeah.
start those tricky conversations. Can you share a few practical strategies, a few, or even simple scripts that parents can use when talking to their children about screen time, social media, or AI?
Yeah, I think it's important that you stay connected. It's about conversations so that you connect. You don't nag and you don't judge and you don't whine at them,
Yes,
give me your phone or come off the device.
right.
It's about being interested in what they're doing
Oh, I
and
love that.
talking with them and saying to them, why do you like that person you follow on Instagram?
Mhm.
And then, sometimes when you're driving somewhere, so you're not all intense, you might be looking forward as you're driving, but you're talking. You said, oh, I was reading something in the paper the other day that this lady said, that she got kind of a bit addicted to scrolling on her phone. How do you find it? Do you find it difficult to come off? That sort of conversation. And one of the important things for me is don't call them parental controls, because as soon
Right.
as you say that, kids go,
Uh-oh.
"Oh, how are we going to get around that then if it's a parental control?" Because that's
Right.
typical teenager.
Hmm.
So I often say, how about you call them privacy settings to keep you safe so you don't
Oh,
see violence or you don't see something inappropriate? And let's do it together. So that whole inclusive let's, not I'm doing it to you, it's
right.
shall we do it together? And let's look at the, how to keep you safe so you can have fun on it at
Hmm.
times. We put a few boundaries around it, as in, before bedtime, an hour before bedtime, you've got to come off. And, let's talk about the apps that you have so that I agree them, because it is important that you are in control of some of this and you don't just hand over all the devices and all the responsibility to young kids or teenagers who
Hmm.
think they know everything, but they don't really. And, you wouldn't hand over the keys to your 4x4 car and just go, off you go, then drive around the block. Okay. Because
Right.
they have to pass their test, have they? So, we tend to overprotect them in the real world and
Hmm.
underprotect them online. So it's about conversations and the way you say it. Think about it, plan it, get knowledgeable about some of this stuff, because let's face it, TikTok is not the greatest place to hang out, really. And, if kids are getting their news from there, they're getting fake news, they're getting all sorts of misinformation. So be the person who talks with them, not at them.
With them, not at them. That is so helpful. I think so many parents will benefit from this conversation and then will breathe a sigh of relief hearing that. Now, speaking of AI, it's everywhere, even in
Mm, yeah.
even in kids' apps in schools, and I know many families are still figuring out what's safe and what's not. AI
Yeah.
tools and chat box are
Chatbots.
and speak today are
Chatbots. I
chat
know
box.
they're the bane. They're the bane of everyone's life.
They're becoming part of everyday life, even
Yeah.
for young children. How can parents guide their kids to use these tools safely and wisely? And I love that. You mentioned conversation, you said it so beautifully. Do you have any more insights?
I do. I've got a blog actually on navigatingthedigitalJungle.com. I do a blog, and it's on the drop down when you look across at products and stuff to help and resources,
Yeah.
because chatbots, people don't particularly think much about them, but there's research at the moment that loads and loads of kids are talking to these chatbots and getting real information, sort of, they feel from them, as like they sound like their friend. But of
Hmm.
course, if you've got, anxiety or worries and you're talking to a chatbot, they really are a tool. They're not a real person
Right.
speaking to your child. So you need to
Hmm.
talk to your child about that, because if
I
that's
love
where
it.
they're getting their reassurance from, it's designed to sound chatty, friendly, and helpful. But there are
Hmm.
some bad signs of that where, some people have got down a real rabbit hole and end up, self-harming, or even, God forbid, doing a challenge that is, doesn't lead them anywhere very safely. So I'm
Yeah.
not about scaremongering, but I am about parents who didn't grow up with it, and we
Mhm.
put our head in the sand, and we mustn't do that. And the other thing to talk to your children about is when they're gaming and playing, children are in the moment and young people are in the moment. They don't think that actually that person talking to you in the chat room is probably a 53-year-old, could
Right.
be possibly paedophile. So you do need to make them kind of have some form of critical thinking
Yeah.
and to sort of protect themselves. You don't want to go around being suspicious of everybody in life, because that's a
Mhm.
horrible way to be. But
Mhm.
certainly online, your kids do need to be far more cautious about, is that person really who they say they are?
Right. That's such a balanced way to look at it, Sue. Not fear-based, but mindful. I love that. Let's shift to a topic that can feel very emotional for parents when technology becomes harmful. What are some early warning signs that a child may be experiencing cyberbullying, and how can parents step in without making their child feel blamed or
Worse.
shut
Yeah,
down?
yeah, yeah. Very good question. I mean, you know your children better than anyone in the world. You
Yes.
know their moods. You know when they're sort of withdrawn or
Mhm,
sad or upset, or they've got a
mhm,
tummy ache, or they
mhm.
suddenly don't want to go online, and you think, well, that's odd because usually you can't get them off it. So
Right.
something may have happened. But the very important thing for me is always be open to conversations. They can come to you about anything. Don't feel that you're going to start shouting at them, blaming them, because some of these things happen by accident. People are unkind to them. It's 24/7, not like when I was at school back in the day, where at least you got a break when you got back home.
Mhm,
Now it's 24/7, and people are very unkind, and it can escalate and become very dramatic very quickly. And I
mhm,
remember listening to a radio phone in actually about this, and a young boy was 11, and he was in year six, which is in the UK, and he joined the group before he went to secondary school. And it wasn't particularly cyberbullying, but he joined the group at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And by 7 o'clock, happening. So the mum said to him, probably had tears in his eyes, "Do you want me to take you out of that group? And you can blame me if you like."
mhm.
And he said, "Yes, please," because he felt so overwhelmed. So the important thing is talk with your kids again, not at them, and be there for them. You can teach them how to block somebody if they're being unkind, or report them if it escalates, or even just simply say, look, why don't you just come off it for a couple of days, and why don't we go to the park, or why don't we go to the cinema, or why don't we chill out as a family and watch a movie and eat popcorn, to rebalance them so they come back to center. They come back to the family that knows, loves them.
I love that, Sue. I love that you mentioned conversation, connection, reconnecting, getting offline. I love that insight. I can't say it enough. I can just picture families trying some of those. They sound fun and restorative. Let's touch on how those strategies might look a little different depending on your child's age. How should parents adjust their strategies when it comes to managing screen time and social media for teens versus younger children?
Yes, well, I talk a lot about screen-free early years because I don't think enough people are talking about the habits that form.
Mhm,
You hand your toddler your smartphone in the restaurant to keep them quiet, or
mhm.
you hand them over the smartphone when they're eating because you don't want to fuss, or you're around the supermarket. Well, they are the habits they are learning. They're getting addicted quicker and quicker to some of that. So we need to try and sort of delay some of that. And I think the important thing with screens is to delay them. So on my website is a free guide about how to sort of talk with your kids about delaying a smartphone or a device.
Right.
Because I think give them hope, right? Because they go, oh, well, everyone else has got one and I'm the only one who doesn't.
Yes.
So you don't want them feeling like bullied or left out because of FOMO. But if you talk with them and say, not yet, you
Not
haven't
yet.
said no forever,
Right. Right.
you know, while you prepare them for, how to use it, how to set boundaries around it, how to come off it, what to do if something goes wrong. And really, children don't need to be on social media. It's much better for them to have a balance where they get involved in sport or hobbies or
Mhm.
hanging out with their friends,
Yes.
in the park or going for sleepovers. You've got to try and get that elusive balance, but certainly delay it for as long as possible. And
As
so
long as
that's why I've got the guide to try and delay, certainly, automatically giving a smartphone. You can give a smart watch or, a brick phone that is just not connected to the internet. That's the
right.
sort of dangerous part, I think.
That makes so much sense. It's not one size fit all when it comes to parents. It's about meeting them where they are. I love it.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Which brings me to how all this technology is changing the way parents parent. How do you think technology is reshaping parenting itself? And what should families be most mindful of as digital tools continue to evolve?
Well, keep abreast of some of it. Try and get a balanced view and have a bit of critical thinking. Not all AI is awful, but it is escalating quicker and faster than
It
anyone can
is.
keep up with.
Yes.
And so, a little bit of caution is not a bad thing, So talk and teach your children about how to stay safe with some of this stuff, how to spot and talk to them about misinformation and, fake news. All of these things kind of help you navigate it. But the other biggie, actually, research has shown is what we are doing as parents on our phones and online has a massive influence on our kids. So if you see, you go to pick your kids up from school or something, or pick them up from wherever they're out and about doing some stuff, and you look down on your phone all the time, and you
Hmm.
don't look up and you don't look into their eyes and say, how was your day? You
Hmm.
know, they can get naughty. Their behavior can get bad because of they feel a bit lighted and you've sort of snubbed them. But also
Uh-huh.
their self-esteem takes a hit because your phone is more important than them. And let's
Oh,
face it, it is more important than your kids. So be mindful of your own screen use.
right.
Model putting it down, putting it
Hmm.
away, charging it downstairs at night time, so it's not by your bed all the time.
Right.
And meal times is a great place. Put it in phone jail or put it in another room, and everyone, make it fun. Stick it in everyone puts their devices into a hat or something, then you put it in another room. So you do talk with your children at meal times. You just don't nag about eating your vegetables and holding the knife and fork properly.
Hmm.
What made you laugh at school today? How's it going with your friends? You talk about your day. So your family comes back to connection again without a device. And that is really good for everybody.
Oh, I so love it. That's such a wise perspective, especially as things are changing so fast. Let's talk about the things parents think they're supposed to do, those myths that often trip families up. What are some of the most common myths or mistakes you see parents making around digital parenting? And what simple shifts can help them course correct?
I think it's about putting boundaries around it. Not many parents know how to sort of say no to their kids. There's been a shift over the years that parents want to be their kid's friend, not their parent. But back in the day, it was smoking that was, something that you sort of protected them from, or alcohol. So see it in those terms that
Mhm.
it's quite addictive. Well, it's very addictive. It does influence anxiety and depression and low self-esteem. So, balance it out around talking with them. And for every kind of, if you want them to, have some form of devices, because a lot of schools send homework, of course, through the devices as well, ed tech, but have some form of boundaries around it in your home. It's not for me to tell you what to do, but on my
Right.
website, Navigating the Digital Jungle, you can download some scripts and around tracking, how much you allow them. You have a family contract, you have a family tech contract. All it does really is focus you on everybody's digital use. And then what happens perhaps if they don't come downstairs when you call them for their dinner? You've got to have a punishment, you have a consequence to that. And
Mhm.
that everyone then knows the rules around tech. You do have to have rules, really, I think.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it can run away from us all, can't it, very quickly?
Yes, yes. I love how you turn those mistakes into learning opportunities. I've been listening to you and I want to go back to your story for a moment because
Sure.
navigating the digital jungle has become such an empowering guide for families everywhere. What inspired you to create Navigating the Digital Jungle? And what kinds of transformations have you witnessed in families who've gone through the program?
Well, that's a really interesting question because I was a deputy head teacher for 22 years, and then I
Wow.
have become a parenting author and broadcaster here in the UK, and I'm on TV and radio on BBC, and I work with Danone, and I've worked with Disney and Twinkle publishers. So I've done a lot of work around the parenting arena, and then I started to notice more and more people were asking me about devices and smartphones in particular. It started off with and they wanted advice and help. And I thought, well, how can I reach it? Lots of people in an easy way, in an easy format, and a free way of kind of getting advice. And I thought, it's a podcast because I've been podcasting. I've got a toddler roadmap podcast. I've got the Parent Verse podcast, but I've suddenly decided I do Navigating the Digital Jungle podcast with Sue Atkins and friends because the friends are the experts in AI or sextortion or creative aspects of tech. They are the experts. So I put questions to them and they give the answers. And then I give some sort of challenges or changes that you can do just one thing this week that would make the world a better place in your family. And then I started to notice I was giving scripts. How to start the conversations, what to say, where to say it, and how to say it. And so, my latest book is Navigating the Digital Jungle, and it has loads and loads of scripts in there for all sorts of situations, whether it's Roblox or whether it's some of the games they want to play, in chat stuff, echo chambers, all sorts of topics with all sorts of practical tips, and then scripts of how to start talking about it with confidence. And I think that's the secret. It's, you don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. We're navigating it all together. But sometimes you'll get an idea and you think, oh, I can do that with our kids this week. So just do one small thing each week, perhaps, that over time will make a big, big difference to your family life and their approach to technology and devices.
That is so beautiful. It's so encouraging to hear how families are finding connection again. For parents listening who want to make one meaningful change starting today, what would you tell them?
Play with your kids, talk with them,
I love
talk
it.
with them, not at them.
At
Just
them.
play, talk, have fun, laugh, connect, whatever it is. Be silly sometimes. I always say a smile is a curve that puts a lot of things straight. We are very serious as parents. It is important that you put boundaries around your kids, but it's the way you say it. You can say it all angry and they'll all get defensive and angry back, or you can be playful with them and make coming off devices more fun. I remember talking to a client and she was nagging her son to come off some game he was on, FIFA or whatever it was. And you know what it's like, they're addictive because you have to keep going up the levels. And then she said, well, you've got to come off it right now and come and do your physics homework. Who wants to come off and do their physics homework? I mean, come off and have fun. So be mindful that, you set stuff up, board games with kids, jigsaws with younger kids,
Mhm.
Lego, bicycle rides, whatever, walking the dog and chatting and laughing. Get back to how we used to do some of it and balance it out. Don't ban it, but balance it.
I love how you said, don't ban it, but balance it. Balance. We need more of those. That's all we need. Balance, balance, communication, playing with our kids, connection, sitting long, talking much, laughing often. Oh my goodness. I love this conversation. Do you have any final thoughts to share with us today? And I also want to know once again about your website, how we can follow you, any social media handles you have, any handles you have, so we can follow your great work and then continue this conversation even after this podcast.
Well, that's wonderful. Yeah, please do. I'm all over social media as Sue Atkins or Sue Atkins, the parenting expert. I'm on Instagram. I'm on across all the platforms, of course. So do come and say hello, but
Yes.
do come and listen to my podcast. It's free. I've done season 3 now. We're looking at season 4. There's all sorts of stuff there that would be helpful and practical practical. I like to be as practical as I can. You can listen on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever, or you go to Navigating the Digital Jungle and look there. There's a blog, there's all sorts of resources. There's even a little bit of merch where you can wear a hat that says, unplugged is my superpower. Or
Ah,
another one that I like that I made for kids, teens. It's a pop socket you put on the back of your smartphone. It says pause before posting because I want
I
kids
love
to be
that.
kind, be kind
Yes,
before you
yes.
post. Is it kind? Is it helpful? Or is it hurtful? And just that split second, if you've got the pop socket, just gives you that moment to pause. So lots of parents like to get one of those for their kids as well. But yeah, there's loads and loads of resources. I go into schools and do power hours for schools. So if you know any schools that would be interested, I have just come back from Gibraltar, as I said, giving some talks in some schools over there about navigating the digital jungle.
Yes,
Work one to one with families if they're interested in working one to one with me.
that's fabulous. And where can listeners find your books? Is it on Amazon? Is it on where
It's
can
on my, yeah, you can buy it on my website actually. You can download it if that's easier, or you can have it sent out to you tangibly. It's quite a heavy little book actually now because I've put so much stuff into it. But yeah,
yeah,
you can download it from my website and read it there. And it's a sort of book you dip in and out of. You don't sit there and read it all through. You go, oh
right.
God, what do I need today? Oh, I need to find out how to talk to her about this, or I need to talk to him about that. So you look it up and there it is, and there's some scripts for you there.
That is so wonderful. Sue, I want to thank you so much for bringing your wisdom and calm to this conversation. You remind us that technology doesn't have to take over our homes. It can be part of a balanced, connected family life when guided with love and awareness. That was Sue Atkins sharing her heart and expertise on raising connected families in a disconnected world. If today's conversation helped you reflect on your family's relationship with technology, take a small step this week. Whether it's a screen free dinner, a mindful scroll, or a heart to heart about online life. I am Abby Dominguez, and as always, thank you for tuning in to Heart with Abagaba, where we keep celebrating children, caregivers, and the conversations that shape them. Thank you for sharing this space with us on Heart to Heart with Abagaba. I hope this conversation inspired you to keep moving forward in hope and light. If this episode spoke to you, please share it with someone you love. Leave us a review and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a moment of inspiration, connection, and joy. May your home be filled with peace, your heart with joy, and your spirit with the quiet strength of love. Until next time, take care of your heart, take care of each other, and keep celebrating the love that makes us family.